My son looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You're not getting a single damn dollar from my dad's 92 million. No hesitation. No shame. Just confidence. Like I was already erased from the story. But what he didn't know was this. His father had already written the ending. And when the lawyer said my name out loud, my son's hand started shaking. Before we dive in, hit like, drop a comment and subscribe. Because this story proves one brutal truth. The people who disrespect you the most are usually the ones who panic when karma finally shows up. Now listen closely, because this isn't just a story about money. It's a story about betrayal and revenge served cold. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm not famous. I'm not powerful. I don't own stock portfolios or offshore accounts. What I did own was a broken marriage and a son I gave everything to. I met Richard Carter when I was 24. He was ambitious, sharp suit, big dreams, zero patience. Back then he was nobody. Just another guy chasing Wall Street like it owed him money. I worked double shifts, paid rent, cooked dinners at midnight. Richard promised me the world. Instead he gave me a child and walked away when the real work started. Marcus was born on a rainy Tuesday. Richard didn't show up. No flowers, no call, no excuse, just silence. I raised Marcus alone. School runs, fevers, homework, nightmares. I skipped meals so he could eat, skipped sleep so he could feel safe. I thought love was enough. I was wrong. When Marcus was 8, Richard came back into our lives. Not because he missed us, because he finally had money. Real money, private jets, penthouse apartments, connections that opened doors quietly. He wanted Marcus, not me. And Marcus was dazzled. Who wouldn't be? A struggling mom versus a millionaire dad. That choice changed everything. Marcus packed his suitcase like he was going on vacation. Didn't cry. Didn't hesitate. I knelt in front of him. "You'll still call me, right?" He nodded. But his eyes were already gone. Richard stood at the door like a king reclaiming his heir. That was the day I became invisible. I watched my son grow up through screens. Elite schools, luxury trips, designer clothes. Every photo hurt. Because I knew one thing. He never looked back. 6 months before Richard died, Marcus called me. First time in years. "I think we should have dinner," he said. No warmth. No emotion. Just business. We met at a high-end restaurant. Menus without prices. Marcus ordered whiskey like he owned the place. He didn't ask how I was. He leaned back and said, "Just so you know, don't expect a dime from Dad's money. $92 million. That was the number." I didn't ask for anything. But he still felt the need to humiliate me. That's when I realized. My son didn't just forget me. He replaced me. Richard died quietly. The media praised him. Nobody mentioned the people he stepped on to get there. Marcus didn't invite me to the funeral. I went anyway. And that decision changed everything. I didn't sit with the family at the funeral. Didn't want to. Didn't belong there anymore. I stood in the back near the exit, like someone who might be asked to leave any second. The room smelled like expensive flowers and fake sympathy. Men in black suits whispered about stocks and legacies. Women cried softly, dabbing their eyes without ruining their makeup. Richard Carter was being buried like a king, and I was just the woman he erased. Marcus stood in the front row. Straight posture. A type. No tears. He looked more like a CEO at a board meeting than a son at his father's funeral. People kept patting his back, telling him how sorry they were, how proud his father would have been of him. He nodded, thanked them, didn't look at me once. After the service, I was about to leave when a voice stopped me. "Evelyn!" Turned. A man in his late 50s stood there. Gray hair, sharp eyes, clean suit but not flashy. He looked serious, like someone who didn't waste words. "I'm Daniel Moore," he said. "Richard's personal attorney." My stomach tightened. "I need to speak with you," he continued. Privately. Marcus noticed. His eyes locked on us. That was the first time I saw confusion on his face. Daniel led me to a quiet corner of the hallway. I'm surprised you came today, he said. So am I replied honestly. He studied me for a moment, then said something that knocked the air out of my lungs. Richard talked about you. Especially in the last year. I almost laughed. That's hard to believe. Daniel didn't smile. He was regretful. That word hit me harder than anger ever could. Regretful. After 30 years. Daniel lowered his voice. There are things Marcus doesn't know. Things Richard never told him. Like what? Asked. Daniel paused, choosing his words carefully. Like the fact that his entire empire was built on something you gave up. My heart started pounding. I don't understand. Daniel leaned in slightly. In 1993, Richard was on the verge of bankruptcy. One bad investment away from losing everything. He needed capital. Fast. Felt dizzy. I remember, I whispered. That was when he disappeared for weeks. Daniel nodded. You had an inheritance back then. From your mother. My hands began to shake. $25,000. Everything my mother left me. I gave him that money, I said. He said it was a loan. He promised to pay it back. Daniel's eyes locked onto mine. He never did. The hallway suddenly felt too small. That money, Daniel continued, was the seed. Kept his company alive. It allowed him to take risks. To build what later became Carter Holdings. $92 million. Built on $25,000 from a woman he abandoned. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Why are you telling me this now? Asked. Daniel exhaled slowly. Because Richard finally told the truth. And because the will reflects that. The next day Marcus called me. Not politely. Not calmly. What the hell were you talking to my dad's lawyer about? He snapped. I stayed quiet. Did you ask him for money? Marcus continued. Because let me make this clear. I didn't ask for anything, I said, my voice steady. Good, he said coldly. Because tomorrow is the will reading. And I don't want any drama. Then he added almost casually. Just know your place. The call ended. I sat there for a long time staring at my phone. My own son. Talking to me like I was a stranger begging for scraps. What Marcus didn't know was this. That night, Daniel Moore showed up at my door. He handed me a thick envelope. No copies, he said. Richard requested you read this alone. Inside was a handwritten letter. Richard's handwriting. Cheeky. Weak. But clear. The first line made my knees buckle. Evelyn, I owe you my life. And I owe you the truth. I sat down on the floor and started reading. By the time I reached the last page, I finally understood why Richard never looked me in the eye again. And why Marcus was about to lose everything he thought was his. I didn't sleep that night. Richard's letter sat on my kitchen table, spread out like a crime scene. Every sentence felt heavy, like it had been waiting 30 years to be read. The letter wasn't an apology. It was a confession. Richard admitted he stole my inheritance and never intended to pay it back. He wrote about the deals, the lies, the men he crushed on his way up. He wrote about Marcus too. I raised him with money, he said, but I never taught him character. That failure is on me. My hands trembled as I folded the pages back into the envelope. By morning I knew one thing for sure. The will reading wasn't going to be quiet. The law office was on the 34th floor. Glass walls. Cold lighting. Everything smelled like power and fear. Marcus arrived early. Black suit. Perfect hair. Confidence dripping off him like he'd already won. He didn't acknowledge me when I walked in. Didn't need to. In his mind I was already erased. Daniel Moore sat at the head of the table. Professional. A man who had seen families tear each other apart over money more times than he could count. Thank you all for coming, Daniel said. We'll begin. Marcus leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. Daniel opened the folder. In accordance with the last will and testament of Richard Carter. Marcus smiled faintly. We will begin with specific personal bequests. Watch, painting, classic car, Ulta Marcus. His smile grew. Then Daniel paused. And now, the primary financial distributions. Marcus straightened. So let's get to it, Marcus said. I've got a flight. Daniel looked up. The first name listed, he said slowly, is Evelyn Carter. Silence. Not the awkward kind. The dangerous kind. Marcus laughed once. Forced. That's not funny. Daniel didn't react. Evelyn Carter is to receive. Marcus stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. This has to be a mistake, he snapped. She's my father's ex. She left him. I didn't speak. Daniel adjusted his glasses. She is to receive $46 million. The room spun. Exactly half. Marcus's face drained of color. That's impossible, he said. She didn't earn a damn thing. Daniel's voice hardened. Please sit down, Mr. Carter. Marcus didn't. This is my father's money. Daniel nodded once. And according to his own words, it was built on hers. Marcus turned to me. Is wild. You planned this, he hissed. I met his stare. I planned nothing. Daniel continued. The remaining $46 million is placed into a trust. Marcus exhaled, relieved. For Marcus Carter, Daniel finished. With conditions. Marcus froze. What conditions? Daniel flipped a page. The trust will only be released if Mr. Carter fulfills the moral and legal clauses outlined by the deceased. Marcus laughed nervously. You're kidding. Daniel looked him dead in the eye. I never kid about wills. Daniel began reading the clauses. Community service. No lawsuits against Evelyn. Public acknowledgement of financial misconduct. And one final condition. Marcus must read Richard's letter. Loud. In this room. Marcus shook his head. No. That letter is private. Daniel's tone went ice cold. Refusal means forfeiture of the trust. The room held its breath. Marcus looked around. The lawyers. At the witnesses. Me. Then he grabbed the letter. His hands were shaking. He started reading. 2 sentences in. His voice cracked. 5 sentences in. His confidence collapsed. When he reached the part about stealing my inheritance, Marcus stopped. The truth had finally caught up to him. And this time, there was nowhere to run. Marcus couldn't finish the letter. His lips moved but no sound came out. The room was dead silent, except for the low hum of the air conditioner and the sound of his breathing. Sharp, uneven, panicked. Daniel broke the silence. Mr. Carter, he said calmly. You may continue. Marcus swallowed hard. He read again, forcing the words out like they were cutting his throat. I taught my son how to make money, Richard had written. But I never taught him how to be a man. Marcus slammed the paper down. This is bulls. He stopped himself, glanced around, then snapped. This is manipulation. My father was sick. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He was of sound mind. The will has been medically and legally verified. Marcus turned to me. For the first time in years. He looked scared. You knew about this, he said. Didn't you? I shook my head. I found out last night. His eyes narrowed. Then why aren't you surprised? Took a breath. Because I already lost you once. Money doesn't scare me. That hit him harder than the numbers. Daniel cleared his throat and continued. There is more. Marcus stiffened. Per Richard Carter's instructions, the trust includes an observation period of 12 months. Marcus scoffed. A year. For what? To determine character, Daniel replied. A murmur rippled through the room. Daniel read on. During this period, Mr. Carter will receive a fixed monthly allowance equal to the national median income. Marcus stared at him. You're saying I go from millions to a paycheck? Yes. Could see it now. Panic. Marcus had never lived without money cushioning every fall. Daniel wasn't done. Any violation of the conditions, harassment, legal action, public defamation, results in immediate termination of the trust. Marcus laughed, but it sounded hollow. This is a joke. Daniel slid another document forward. This is a contract. Marcus sank back into his chair. His hands ran through his hair. This is her fault, he muttered, nodding toward me. She poisoned him. Daniel's eyes hardened. That accusation alone puts you close to forfeiture. Marcus shut up. The room felt heavy. Finally, Daniel said, "We are adjourned." Outside the building, reporters were already waiting. Someone had tipped them off. "Marcus," they shouted, "is it true your mother inherited half? Did Richard Carter admit financial misconduct?" Marcus pushed past them, face tight, jaw clenched. I walked out slower. A microphone was shoved toward me. "Ms. Carter," a reporter asked, "do you have any comment?" I thought about all the years I stayed silent. All the nights I cried alone. All the times my son chose money over me. "Yes," I said quietly. "I do." I looked straight into the camera. Money doesn't build families. Honesty does. Then I walked away. That night my phone rang. "Marcus." I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. Finally I answered. "What do you want?" he asked. There was silence on the other end. Then his voice, lower, rougher. "They're tearing me apart out here," he said. "Online. The press. Everyone." Closed my eyes. "This is your reality now," I said. "You wanted your father's world. This is it." He swallowed. "Can we talk?" he asked. Not like a son. Like a man with nothing left. I hesitated. And in that pause, I realized something terrifying. The trust wasn't the real test. It was. I agreed to meet Marcus. Not because I owed him anything, but because part of me needed to see who he was. Without his father's shadow. Without money doing the talking. We met at a small diner off the highway. The kind of place with cracked vinyl seats, burnt coffee, and no valet parking. Marcus walked in late. No suit. No confidence. Just a wrinkled jacket and tired eyes. He sat across from me and stared at the table. "I don't belong in places like this," he muttered. I didn't respond. He finally looked up. "They froze my accounts," he said. "All of them. I didn't even know how many there were." That didn't surprise me. Richard controlled everything. "Welcome to real life," I said. He flinched. Marcus ordered cheap eggs and toast. He stared at the menu like it was written in another language. When the bill came, he hesitated before pulling out his card. Declined. I watched his face collapse in real time. The waitress waited. Patient. Unimpressed. Marcus pulled out another card. Declined. His ears turned red. I slid a 20 across the table. The waitress took it without a word. Marcus didn't say thank you. He just sat there staring at his plate. "I don't know how people live like this," he said quietly. Finally snapped. "Like what?" he asked. "Honestly." He shrugged. "Counting dollars. Worrying about bills." I leaned forward. "That was my life when I raised you." He didn't answer. Weeks passed. Marcus started working. Not because he wanted to. 'Cause he had to. Some mid-level consulting job. No corner office. No assistant. He hated it. Every call. Every meeting. Every paycheck. He called me more often. Sometimes angry. Sometimes lost. Once at midnight he said, "I don't think I'm a good person." I didn't comfort him. "I know," I replied. Silence. Then a quiet, broken laugh. One evening Marcus showed up at my apartment unannounced. He looked thinner. Older. "I messed up," he said. He told me he'd tried to sue the trust. The lawyers shut him down instantly. One more move like that. And it was over. "I don't know how to fix this," he said. I looked at him for a long time. "For once," I said. "Don't fix it with money." He frowned. Then how? I stood up and grabbed my coat. Come with me. I took him to the storage unit. The one I'd been paying for since he left. Inside were boxes. His drawings. School projects. Old photos. Things he'd never asked for back. I opened one box and pulled out a crumpled paper. A handwritten note. Mom, you're my hero. He stared at it, hands shaking. I don't remember writing that, he whispered. I do, I said. You were 7. Marcus sat on the concrete floor. And for the first time, he cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet shaking sobs. And in that moment, I realized something painful. Money didn't ruin my son. It just revealed who he became without love. Marcus didn't come back the same after that night at the storage unit. Something in him cracked. Not loudly, not all at once, but in small, uncomfortable ways. He stopped calling to complain. Stopped blaming everyone else. Started asking questions. Real ones. How did you pay rent when I was little? What did you do when you were scared? Did you ever think about leaving? Those questions told me everything. For the first time, he wasn't trying to win. He was trying to understand. The media didn't let up. Headlines everywhere. Heir loses millions in shock will twist. Rich kid learns real life the hard way. Marcus stopped reading comments. He had to. 'Cause they were brutal. People didn't see a man learning. They saw a villain falling. And honestly, he earned some of it. 3 months into the trust period, Daniel Moore called me. There's been a development, he said. My stomach tightened. Marcus requested a modification. That surprised me. Modification? Yes. Yes, Daniel replied. He wants to redirect part of the trust. To himself. I asked flatly. No. That one word changed everything. Marcus asked to meet. This time at my place. He stood in my doorway, hands in his pockets. I want to do something, he said. Before it's too late. I didn't interrupt. I want to give up part of the trust, he continued. If I qualify for it. My breath caught. Why? He swallowed. Because I don't deserve all of it. And because Dad didn't either. He looked at me. And because you gave up your life for me. That was the first time he said it out loud. We met Daniel together. Marcus slid a signed document across the table. I want to create a foundation, he said. For single parents. Especially mothers. Daniel raised an eyebrow. This would reduce your inheritance significantly. I know. And this is voluntary. Yes. Daniel looked at me. I said nothing. This wasn't my decision. Marcus continued. No press. No branding. No Carter Foundation crap. Daniel nodded slowly. I'll prepare the paperwork. As we stood to leave, Daniel stopped Marcus. One more thing, he said. Your father added a private clause. One I haven't disclosed. Marcus froze. What clause? Daniel's eyes shifted to me. The final release of the trust, he said, depends on one last condition. Marcus's voice dropped. Which is? Daniel spoke carefully. Whether Evelyn Carter chooses to forgive you. The room went silent. Marcus turned to me. Not angry. Not defensive. Just afraid. For the first time in his life. Money couldn't buy the outcome. And I realized. This story was never about $92 million. It was about one choice. And I was the only one who could make it. I didn't answer right away. Not in Daniel's office. Not on the drive home. Not even that night. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a wound you decide to stop reopening. Marcus didn't pressure me. That mattered. Days passed. Then weeks. He kept his distance. Showed up when I asked. Left when I needed space. No guilt trips. No speeches. No I've changed performances. Just effort. One evening he asked if we could talk. Really talk. We sat in my living room. No phones. No distractions. I need to say something, he began. And I don't need you to forgive me after. He nodded. When I told you not to expect a dime, I meant it, he said. I wasn't just repeating Dad. I believed it. That hurt more than yelling ever could. I thought money was proof, he continued. Proof of love. Proof of worth. He looked down. And I thought you were weak because you didn't chase it. I let that sit. I was wrong, he said quietly. I was scared. And instead of dealing with it, I became cruel. Tears ran down his face. I don't need the trust, he said. If you say no, I'll accept it. That was new. The next day I called Daniel. I'm ready, I said. May I ask which way you're leaning, he asked. You may, I replied. But I won't tell you yet. Daniel understood. I asked Marcus to meet me at the cemetery. Richard's grave. Gray stone. Simple. No grand words. We stood there in silence. He wanted control till the end, Marcus said bitterly. Yes, I replied. But he also wanted truth. I turned to him. You don't get forgiveness because you're sorry, I said. You get it because you change. He nodded. I know. I reached into my bag. Pulled out a folded piece of paper. A letter. I carried this anger for decades, I said. It made me small. I don't want that anymore. My voice shook. So here's what I'm choosing. I looked him in the eye. I forgive you. Marcus broke. He covered his face. I placed my hand on his shoulder. But forgiveness, I continued, doesn't erase consequences. You still live differently. You still earn trust. I will, he said. Every day. Daniel received my decision that afternoon. The trust would proceed. But with amendments. Marcus wouldn't receive the full amount. Part of it would permanently fund the foundation. Another part would be released in phases. Slowly. Earned. Months later the headlines stopped. No scandals. No lawsuits. Just quiet work. Marcus moved apartments. Smaller. Modest. He volunteered at the foundation anonymously. No cameras. No ego. One day, I watched him help a tired mother load groceries into her car. The woman thanked him. He smiled. Not the old smile. A real one. That night Marcus called me. Mom, he said. Yes. I'm proud of you. Closed my eyes. For the first time in a very long time. I believed him. Life got quieter after that. Not easier. Just quieter. The kind of quiet where you're no longer waiting for the next blow. Marcus settled into a routine. Work. Volunteer shifts. Therapy. Though he never talked about that part unless I asked. The foundation grew slowly. No press releases. No galas. Just help reaching people who actually needed it. Single mothers. Parents working 2 jobs. People who reminded me of myself. Marcus didn't run it. He listened. That was new. One afternoon, Daniel Moore called again. I wanted to inform you, he said, that the observation period is nearing completion. I felt something twist in my chest. And, yes, Marcus has complied with every condition. No violations. No incidents. There was a pause. There's something else, Daniel added. Something Richard never intended for Marcus to know unless this happened. My heart sank. What is it? A final letter, Daniel said. Addressed to you. But concerning him. Picked it up the next day. Same shaky handwriting. Same heavy weight. I read it alone. Richard admitted something I had never suspected. Marcus isn't cruel by nature, he wrote. He became that way under my pressure. I trained him to dominate, not connect. Then came the line that changed everything. If you're reading this, Evelyn, then Marcus has earned a chance I never gave him. I folded the letter carefully. That night I invited Marcus over. I didn't tell him about the letter. Not yet. We ate dinner together. Simple food. Quiet laughter. At one point he looked at me and said, I don't think Dad ever wanted me to be happy. I didn't argue. He wanted you to be powerful, I said. There's a difference. Marcus nodded. After dinner, I handed him a small envelope. What's this? He asked. Something you should have had years ago. Inside was a copy of my old bank statement. The one showing the withdrawal. $25,000. The beginning of everything. Marcus stared at it. His hands trembled. All this, he whispered, came from you. Yes, I said. He looked up. I don't know how to live with that. You don't live with it, I replied. You live better because of it. The next morning, Marcus called Daniel himself. He made a request, one that shocked everyone. He asked that his last scheduled payout be delayed indefinitely. No deadline. No rush. Why? Daniel asked him. Marcus answered simply. Because I don't want to become my father. Weeks later, Marcus stood in front of a small group at the foundation. No stage. No spotlight. Just a room full of people who had survived worse than him. He told them his story. Not as a victim. As a warning. And as he spoke, I realized something powerful. The money didn't save my son. Love didn't either. What saved him was accountability. And just when I thought the story was finally over, my doctor called and said something that made my hands go numb. Something that would test everything we had rebuilt. The doctor's voice was calm. Come, Evelyn, he said. We need to run more tests. I already knew what that meant. When doctors stop using comforting words, it's because the truth doesn't fit inside them. 2 days later, I sat alone in a white room that smelled like disinfectant and quiet fear. Stage 2. Early but aggressive. Treatable. If my body cooperated. I didn't cry. I thanked the doctor, scheduled appointments, and walked out like I'd just been told the weather. In the parking lot, I sat in my car for 20 minutes before I could start the engine. My first thought wasn't death. It was Marcus. I didn't tell him right away. I wanted to be sure. I wanted time. But Marcus noticed. He always did now. You're tired, he said one evening. More than usual. I'm getting older, I replied. He didn't buy it. A week later, he showed up with groceries I hadn't asked for. And soup. Homemade. That's when I knew. I couldn't hide it. We sat at the kitchen table. Same place where I once paid bills with change and hope. I'm sick, I said. Marcus didn't speak. I'm going to be okay, I added quickly. The doctors are hopeful. He stared at me like he was trying to memorize my face. How long have you known? He asked. Long enough. He stood up, walked to the sink, gripped the counter. I heard his breathing break. I don't know how to do this, he said. I don't know how to be the one who stays. That sentence shattered me, because that was the one thing his father never did. I reached for his hand. You already are, I said. The roles reversed quietly. Marcus drove me to appointments, sat in waiting rooms, learned medical words he never wanted to know. He argued with insurance companies like they were enemies. He cooked, cleaned, listened. Not once did he complain. One night after chemo, I found him asleep in a chair beside my bed, still wearing his jacket. Phone clutched in his hand, like he was afraid to miss something. Cried then. Silent tears. Because this was the son I had always imagined. And I almost lost him to money. During one treatment, Marcus asked something unexpected. Did you ever regret forgiving me? He asked. I shook my head. No, I said. But I regretted not forgiving myself sooner. He frowned. For what? For thinking I failed you, I said. I didn't. I just loved you. He nodded slowly. Then whispered. I wish Dad had learned that. The trust's final review date arrived quietly. Daniel called. All conditions have been met, he said. The remaining funds are ready for release. Marcus didn't answer right away. Can we talk later? He said. My mom's in treatment. There was a pause. Of course, Daniel replied. After the call, Marcus looked at me. I'm not taking it, he said. I stared at him. Not now. Not ever, he continued. It's already done enough damage. You don't have to punish yourself, I said. I'm not, he replied. I'm choosing myself. Months passed. My hair thinned. My body weakened, but something inside me grew stronger. Oh. One morning the doctor smiled. "We're seeing improvement," she said. Marcus squeezed my hand so tight it hurt. I laughed. "I'm not done yet," I told him. And for the first time, he believed me. But life has a way of testing peace. Because just when we found our rhythm, someone from Richard's past came looking, with a secret, and a demand, that could destroy everything we'd built. The man showed up on a Tuesday. No warning, no appointment, just a knock that felt heavier than it should have. Marcus opened the door. The guy was tall, mid-60s, expensive coat, eyes that didn't blink enough. He looked like money that had learned how to hide. "I'm looking for Evelyn Carter," he said. Marcus didn't step aside. "She's resting," he replied. "Who are you?" The man smiled slightly. "Tell her Thomas Hale is here." That name hit me like a dropped plate. Thomas Hale. Richard's former partner. The one who vanished in the late 90s. The one whose name I hadn't heard in decades, but somehow never forgot. "I'll handle this," I told Marcus quietly. Thomas sat across from me in the living room. He didn't offer sympathy. Didn't mention my health. He got straight to it. "Richard owed me," he said. "And now that he's gone, that debt didn't die with him." Marcus stiffened. "I don't know what you think you're talking about," he said. Thomas raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about." He pulled out a thin folder. "Carter Holdings' first offshore structure," he said. "My idea. My contacts. My risk." He slid a document across the table. "And this," he added, "proves I was cut out." I looked at the paper. Old signatures. Richard's included. My stomach tightened. "What do you want?" I asked. Thomas smiled again. "Closure," he said. "And compensation." Marcus laughed sharply. "There's no money left to grab," he said. "The trust." Thomas held up a hand. "I'm not here for the trust," he said. "I'm here for you." The room went cold. Thomas leaned forward. "I'm prepared to go public," he said. "Lawsuits, interviews, documents." He looked at Marcus. "Your father's legacy will be dragged through every outlet that once praised him." Marcus clenched his jaw. "And in exchange for silence?" Marcus asked. Thomas named the number. It was obscene. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was familiar. Men like him always think fear is currency. Marcus stood up. "You're done here," he said. Thomas looked amused. "Careful," he warned. "You don't have the power you think you do." Marcus didn't raise his voice. "That's where you're wrong," he said. He turned to me. "Mom," he said softly, "this is your choice. But whatever you decide, I'm with you." That sentence mattered more than any contract ever could. I looked at Thomas. "You're not getting a cent," I said. His smile vanished. "Then I hope you're ready," he said. "Because this won't end quietly." Didn't. 2 weeks later the story broke. Old deals. Shady structures. Richard's name everywhere. Stock prices dipped. Commentators argued. Marcus was asked to respond. He did. In camera. "I won't defend what was wrong," he said. "And I won't protect money built on silence." That interview went viral. Thomas tried to push harder. But something unexpected happened. Other names came forward. Other partners. Other documents. Thomas Hale wasn't a whistleblower. He was exposed. By the end of the month, he disappeared again. This time for good. The night it ended, Marcus sat beside my bed. "You could have taken the easy way," he said. "Paid him off." I shook my head. "I didn't raise you to buy peace," I said. "I raised you to earn it." He smiled. Then his voice cracked. "I'm glad I came back," he said. "So am I," I replied. Later that night alone I thought about Richard. All his money. All his control. And how none of it survived truth. What survived was something else. A son who finally chose right. And a mother who lived long enough to see it. The house felt different after that. Lighter. Like something heavy had finally been carried out and set down for good. No more surprises. No more men from the past knocking on the door. Just mornings that started slow. And evenings that ended with conversation instead of silence. My health stabilized. Not perfect, but steady. The doctors called it manageable. I called it a second chance. Marcus moved closer. Not into my place. Just close enough. He didn't ask. He just did it. Every Sunday he cooked dinner. Nothing fancy. Pasta. Things you eat when you plan on staying. One night, as he washed dishes, he said, "I used to think legacy was money." Smiled. "What do you think it is now?" Asked. He didn't answer right away. "The people who still show up when the money's gone," he said. That was the right answer. The foundation held a small gathering. No press. No speeches. Just families sharing food and stories. A woman came up to me. She didn't know who I was. She just took my hand and said, "Your son helped me when I thought no one would." I looked across the room. Marcus was sitting on the floor, playing with a kid, laughing in a way I'd never heard before. Free. I understood then. Everything Richard tried to control with money had been rebuilt with humility. Months later, Marcus brought me a folder. "I need you to see this," he said. Inside was a new will. His will. Not because he was sick. Because he was intentional. Most of it wasn't about money. It was instructions, values, boundaries, promises. At the bottom, he'd written one sentence. "If I ever forget who I am, remind me of where I came from." I hugged him. Hard. One evening we visited the cemetery again. Richard's grave. Marcus placed flowers. No anger. No praise. Just acceptance. "I forgive you," he said quietly. "But I won't become you." That was the real inheritance. Years later, when people asked about the $92 million, I told them the truth. That money can disappear. Power fades. But accountability changes bloodlines. My son once told me, "Don't expect a dime." He was right. I didn't get what I expected. Got something better. Got my son back.